Ever read like a fascinating research study and thought, can I really trust this? It kind of makes you wonder, you know.
You're definitely not alone.
Yeah, right.
Happens all the time.
Today's deep dive, we're going behind the scenes of research,
Yeah, research methodologies
specifically Chapter 15.
and unlocking those secrets, those research transparency secrets, we're going to be your guide.
Ooh, secrets.
Like equipping you to evaluate any study like a pro.
Because, let's be honest,
Yeah,
research can sometimes feel like a magic show.
it really can.
We see these amazing results.
The magic trick.
But the methods, like how they got there, total mystery.
That's why we're here, right? Transparency is so crucial. And we talk about this all the time. It's like we're shining a light on every single step
Yeah.
of the entire research process so we can see what's going on.
No more of that research hocus pocus.
Exactly.
We're talking about everything.
Everything.
From the theory behind it,
The why.
to how the data is collected,
How they get it, yeah.
how it's analyzed,
The stats.
and even how it's reported.
Because that's important, right?
Yeah.
We got to know what we're looking at. And this is especially relevant now, I think, because there's just growing concern about, whether findings can be reproduced or replicated,
Yeah.
particularly in social and behavioral sciences, which, that's kind of what we're talking about.
So it's not just about if a study is right or wrong, but can we even trust how they got those findings?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
Reproducibility, for example. That basically means if we take the same data and use the same methods to analyze it, we should get the same results.
So like following a recipe, same ingredient, same instruction, the same cake.
Precisely.
Mm.
But replicability, that's a little different. That's more like if we can get similar results with a totally different data set. So maybe we're using like a similar recipe, but maybe we're switching out some ingredients.
Yeah. So it's about how strong those findings are, with different groups, contexts, all that. But what happens when studies don't hold up to these standards?
Oh, then we have problems. We have what some might call a credibility crisis. It's a big deal.
Uh-oh.
It can even lead to retractions, which nobody wants.
Yeah, that's not good.
There was one study, for instance, that had some issues with this.
Yeah.
They made these big conclusions about entire teams of people, but when you look closer, their data was only like from individual employees.
Whoa, that's a major oversight.
Big oops. So yeah, clearly we got to get this right. It's important.
So how can we, even if we're not scientists ourselves, how can we be smarter consumers of research?
Well, it starts with understanding the research design. We got to pay attention to how they collected the data, like was it surveys, interviews? Did they use some existing data they found?
Right.
And then who did they include in the study? Was it random people or was it just whoever was easiest to reach?
Because if it's a study on sleep deprivation and it's based on 10 college students during finals week, that's probably not going to be representative of, the entire population.
You got it. The sample has to be representative. And that kind of leads us to another important thing, which is control variables.
Okay, break that down for me. What are control variables and why are they so important for this whole transparency thing? So we're making sure they're really measuring what they think they are
Right.
and not letting other things get in the way.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you want to study exercise and stress levels.
Okay, yeah.
You'd have to think about other things too, right? Age, maybe what people eat if they already have health problems.
Right.
Because those things could also, totally mess with stress levels. It makes it hard to know what's really going on.
So if you control for those other variables, then you can really see how exercise is impacting stress.
Exactly. But here's where transparency is key. Researchers got to be upfront about what they controlled for, why they chose those specific things, and even what they thought about controlling for but didn't.
So we can be like, oh, okay, that makes sense, or, I don't know about that.
Exactly. It's all about building trust,
Right. Total transparency. Okay, so shifting gears a bit here.
Okay.
Measurement. Even with a good design, measuring stuff can be tricky.
Oh, for sure. Especially when it comes to those big concepts, right?
Yeah, how do you even measure job satisfaction?
Or how concerned someone is about the environment.
You can't exactly use a ruler for that.
Nope, not going to work. So researchers really have to carefully define these concepts and find the right tools to capture them.
Which seems like it could get a little subjective, no?
Definitely. They might use questionnaires and surveys that already exist, or sometimes they even create their own.
Really?
Yeah, but either way, we need to know how they did it. How did they turn this big abstract idea into something they could actually measure?
So if a study's about a new teaching method and student engagement, they'd need to define what student engagement even means in this situation.
Exactly. Are they looking at if kids participate in class, how much homework they do,
Mm.
or even their emotional response to what they're learning? What they choose to look at makes a big difference.
Garbage in, garbage out, right? If they're not measuring the right things, the results won't mean much.
Totally. And even small changes to a standard measure, like a tiny tweak, can throw things off. Researchers got to explain why they made those changes and how it might change how we see the results.
So we can follow their logic. Like, okay, I see what you did there.
Yes,
All
exactly.
right, data analysis. I'm not going to lie, this is where I tend to zone out a little, all those numbers.
I hear you. But good news is you don't need to be a stats whiz to get why transparency is important here. What matters is that researchers tell us what software they used, the statistical stuff they did, and basically any choices they made.
Because different methods could lead to different conclusions, even with the same data.
Exactly. Think of it like those filters we were talking about on a camera.
Right, right.
Different filters, totally different picture,
Yeah.
even though it's the same photo. And one thing to watch for, and I know you know about this, outliers.
Oh, yeah, those data points that are way out there.
Yeah, like that one friend who's always 3 hours late.
Every single time.
Exactly. Outliers can really mess with results, so researchers need to decide what to do with them. Sometimes they just get rid of them.
Right.
Sometimes they adjust them. Sometimes they just leave them be. The point is, just tell us what you did and why.
So we can decide if it makes sense. Okay, we've covered the design, the measurement, the analysis. What's left?
The big reveal, right?
The results.
The grand finale.
But even then, transparency is still key. Right.
Absolutely.
So give it to me straight. What should I be looking for when I'm checking out a study's results? Give me the inside scoop. It can't just be about those big headlines, right? Those can be so misleading. What should we actually watch out for?
One thing is when researchers, they only show us the results that fit their theory.
Ah, so sneaky.
Right. Transparency means showing everything, even the stuff they weren't expecting, even if it contradicts what they thought.
It's like, okay, we get it. Research is messy. It's not always a perfect story.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And here's the other thing, and this is a big one. We got to go beyond just statistical significance.
You mean those p-values?
Yeah, those guys. Those p-values, they tell us if something is statistically significant or not, but that's not the whole picture.
Because something can be statistically significant, but like, who cares? It doesn't actually matter in real life.
Exactly. Like a study might find a statistically significant link between, I don't know, eating carrots and being super smart.
Okay, I like where this is going.
The effect size is tiny, so it doesn't really mean anything. You don't need to go out and buy all the carrots.
Oh, effect size matters.
Big time. It tells us how strong that relationship actually is. A big effect size, that's when we know it's probably important.
So it's not just about passing a test. It's about whether it matters in the real world.
Exactly. And you know what else? Researchers should also be upfront about the limitations of their study.
Oh, so important. Every study has limitations, right?
For sure, every single one. Maybe it's only about a certain group of people, or maybe they couldn't collect all the data they wanted. That doesn't mean the findings are wrong, but we got to keep it in mind.
It's about being honest. No study is perfect. Do you have any examples of studies that did a really good job with this whole transparency thing?
Oh yeah, there was this one. It was about a new leadership training program. And they didn't just give us all these numbers and expect us to figure it out.
They gave us the CliffsNotes version, too. I like it.
Right. They explained what the statistics actually meant, like what would happen in a real workplace. And they admitted that the training might not work everywhere for everyone, which, let's be honest, is probably true for most things.
Honesty, the best policy. So last question before we wrap up. How do we get more researchers to jump on this transparency train?
It's got to be a team effort. Journals where researchers publish their work, they have a big role. If they make people share their data, the stuff they used, even their code, that would be huge.
So everyone can see what they did, try to replicate it.
Exactly. Make transparency the norm.
Right, like it's just what you do.
Some journals are even giving out these, open science badges to researchers who do a really good job with transparency.
Ooh, like a gold star.
Exactly. And, of course, it's not just about rewards. We got to give researchers the training and resources they need.
Right, make it easy for them to do the right thing.
Because when research is more transparent, everybody wins. It's more trustworthy, we can make better decisions, and it helps us learn and grow in every field.
This has been amazing. I feel like I can spot a shady research study from a mile away now.
That's what we like to hear.
Any last words of wisdom for our listeners out there?
Just remember, when you see a new study, don't just take it at face value. Ask those questions. How was it designed? How did they measure things? What about the data? And how are they presenting the findings? Be critical.
Be a savvy consumer of information.
Exactly. You might even inspire a researcher or two along the way.
Love it. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into research transparency. Until next time, stay curious.